Let's get started. Hello, welcome to the Mid and Analyze Data. Today, the tutorial is going to be about how to back up data on a remote computer. And all the materials are already posted on the MED discourse forum. Oops. There is a topic that has this presentation. And eventually the recording will also be up there. This is the part of the forum that you don't need to be logged in to see. But if you're logged in, you can see the questions and post questions and so on. So let's go full screen. So for today's lesson, before we go into the practical parts of actually backing up stuff, what's happening, Taylor? The benefits of a veterinary hospital. Oh, some theory about backups. These are some of the rules that like there are no strong rules or like what is a backup or so on, but these are the ones that I like. The first one is that if you have one backup, you don't have any backup because it will go away. So it's usually good that you have more than one spread around. If you have a backup and you can restore it, does it really make a sound? Like if you have the data backed up somewhere and you can restore the data that's there, it's as useful as having a stone in place of the hard drive. And also try to have backups in different physical locations, because if you buy 2 hard drives and you have copies of your backup and you keep both of them in the office, if the office burns down, you lose both of your backups. So like keep one in your office, one at your home, or in the cloud somewhere, or other places. Things to back up. If this is your personal computer, you back up everything and you back up frequently because you don't want to lose all the stuff that you are working on. On Macs, there is it's Time Machine actually, not Time Capsule, right? Time Capsule was something else, sorry. But on Macs, you can set that up if you have an external hard drive to back up all your data. And it over time, as it's backing up, it will remove the old one, so it's nice to keep everything working. I'm not sure about Windows options because it's been a long time since I used Windows, but there's probably some available. I use something called rclone on my computer, which has a link there if someone wants to check or talk later. I will not go into details about this. But here we're kind of discussing in the context of a project. So if you have a project, the things that you want to back up on the data side is your raw data, because that's the thing that's coming out of the sequencer, the things that you're deriving all your analysis. The intermediate data is kind of, I'm on the fence on like what you should back up or not, because intermediate data can be massive. You can generate a lot based on your raw data. And if you have something that automates all the process of generating the analysis, you could rerun your analysis script or like snake-make or something like that to regenerate all the intermediate data. But it's also a trade-off, like how long did the data actually take to generate? Because if you've been running things for 6 months, maybe it's better to actually back up the intermediate results also. And depends on how large it is. If the intermediate data is very small, just back it up everything because it's not that much space. If it's multiple terabytes of data, you're probably going to pay a lot of money to actually back up that. So trade-offs on intermediate data. Results, I think you should also always back up, because worst case, if you can't reproduce everything else, at least you have the results. Hopefully you can reproduce everything, but and also for backup options, like there's different things that you want to do. Like if you're trying to back up code, Git is already built for that. If you have a Git repository for managing your code, the versions, and you send to GitHub, that's one backup. And the good thing about Git is that if GitHub ever goes down, you still have access to all your versioning information, or if someone else copied to another place, it's all still available and can be used For data, Git is not very good. If it's a smallish file, you can put on Git and GitHub will not complain about it. If it starts getting to the hundreds of megabytes range, GitHub will not let you upload data that big to GitHub. There are some things that you can use with Git to version data. It's kind of wonky, doesn't work that well. But good options for backing up data. Amazon has these two things called S3 and Glacier. S3 is a bit more expensive, but it's really convenient to access the data. It starts to get really expensive if you're storing a lot of data, but for smaller things, it's kind of okay. Glacier is way cheaper, but the problem is that it's not real time. Like if you try to access something, it might be backed up into a tape or something, and it will take 4 hours to bring the data back. So it's something that you request and then you access later. It's not something that you can check instantly, but it's way cheaper. Backblaze is a really good option for backing up your computer also. Taylor really likes to use Backblaze, so she has to put it on the slides. And it also has a really nice client like for Macs that will auto back up your data and everything. Dropbox, it's a somewhat okay backup option. I think they've been expanding the product to actually back up your computer nowadays instead of only your one folder. And there are many other options. If you want to see what UC Davis has to offer for cloud storage, there's actually a URL that the IT maintains, which is not this one, is this one, that has some cloud storage options and what's available for us to use for free in the university as while you're still at the university. So the main things that they show is Box, Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, and Amazon Web Services, so S3 and Glacier. The nice thing about these things is that they are free if you're in the university. And they have this really nice thing here, which you can try to see how much unlimited is actually unlimited. But if they are promising, I will take their offer. So both Box and Google Drive, they say unlimited at no cost. OneDrive is 1 terabyte, but it's really convenient if you have a Windows machine to use. So might use that if you have a Windows machine. And then AWS is more complicated. They have described here. We do have special rates for storing data on AWS, like through the university. So if that's something that you want to use, you might want to check with them how to benefit from those costs. But I mostly use Google Drive and Box for my backups. Yeah. Yes. I don't know exactly what the details are. The regular Box account is not that big. It's like 50 gigabytes or something like that. So it might be an issue when you leave the university. Yes. Again, I don't think Box or Google Drive are good options if you're not paying, because if you're not paying, you're the product with everything that's free on the internet. So they might change the conditions on how you can use, or they might change the unlimited and not be unlimited anymore. But backups, you have more than one. So these are good like fallbacks to have a second one somewhere that works. And then you have one more resilient somewhere else. But while we are here, might as well use. But today, what we are going to use is a piece of software called rclone. And rclone is kind of manages a lot of different storage options, cloud storage options. So these are the ones that they list on their homepage. And there's Backblaze, there's Amazon S3, there's Box, there's Google Drive, Dropbox, and a lot of other stuff. And the nice thing is that the setup process is a bit complicated depending on which one of these you choose. But once it's configured, it's really easy to use to back up the data somewhere or copy stuff around. And they also define themselves as rsync for cloud storage. Rsync is something else that I'm not going to talk today, but if you're working with data from like if you're sequencing stuff here at the Genome Center, they actually have a page teaching how to use rsync to copy data out of SLIMs. And it's way easier than going there and right-clicking and downloading the data or finding all the links. So might also want to check that. And to use as a remote computer, we are going to be I will be using Farm today. And when you log into Farm, there is kind of a message. Where is it? If you log into Farm, that's not this password, this password. So this is the login message when you log into Farm, and they say that there is a transfer node available for rsync, SCP, gzip, but what they mean here is that if you're going to run anything that's data intensive, like copying data around on the network or something like that, use the transfer node. Don't use the head node, which is the one you go normally to do stuff. And so in this case, it's a good policy, so we should follow it. There's also, you should always obey orders, except when the orders are wrong. In this case, it's a right order, so do that and be a good citizen. That said, to use the transfer node in the Farm transfer node, you use port 2022. So the way to log in is to do SSH dash small p 2022 Farm. Oh, my username at Farm. And now, I mean, the transfer node doesn't have that big message, so that might be one way of telling you which one you are. And also the name of the machine is smaller here. Instead.
Farm on campus?
Yeah, Farm is the CSC cluster. CSC stands for College of Science Engineering. Yeah. So it's one of the clusters, like the people that maintain Farm maintain other computers like Peloton, and there are some others. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know if Barbera has a transfer node available. Maybe they have, maybe they don't. I don't know. Need to check with them. In this case, I know that Farm has, so that's why I'm logging through. Yeah, so usually when you're logging into a remote machine, it's what they call a head node or a dev node, where you can start running jobs or this sort of stuff. Sometimes when you're transferring a lot of data, you're not really using much CPU, but you're really using a lot of the network interfaces. So that's why on Farm, they set up this transfer node to, you run this kind of things there. And the stuff that you're actually submitting scripts and everything else you run on the dev node. And the nice thing about Farm is that they actually have rclone already available as a module. And the version is fairly new, 1.49. If you don't have rclone available as a module in the system, it's pretty easy to install. They publish on their website binaries. So it's like one file that you need to download and copy into the right place. And they have for Macs and for Windows also. I think for Windows, they even have an installer. So here, what I'm going to do is that I'm not going to use the module. And I have the command from before. But it's exactly the same command that's on the presentation. And then you unzip this. Should have removed that. And then if you look into this directory, there are some other files that are being generated here. The one that we want is this rclone. I'm copying this out of this directory because it's kind of long to type this all the time. And I usually for this sort of stuff, I create a bin directory in my home directory and add this directory to the path. So I don't need to type, instead of typing bin/rclone all the time, if it's in the path, which is something like support path, bin path. If you add this to your bash rc or something like that on the beginning of the shell, then I can just type rclone now, and it will pick up the command without having to type all the path. So I tried to install rclone with Conda. For some reason, no one ever uploaded to Conda Forge. I'm gonna make a pull request and make a package later because it's pretty simple to set up for the package. So it will be available next week, hopefully. But yeah, it would be really nice if it was on Conda. If it's not, it's something that I do with my scripts when I set up a project. I usually make a script to install rclone to my local directory and then use from there if I don't want to set on my home directory. But rclone is really useful to have around, so it's kind of like on my basic setup all the time. So now we have rclone. We are running here on the terminal. You can see that there are many options on this thing. The first one that you want to run is called rclone config, and I will actually delete this one because I should have removed that before. Again, rclone config, if you run the first time, it's going to say you don't have this a configuration yet. I'm starting a new one, and then it says no remotes found, make a new one. So we are going to follow the instructions to make a new remote. A remote here is any of those tens of services that rclone support. And the idea is that you set, for example, a remote for Box, and then you can copy stuff from your computer to that remote. And you can also do copy data from one remote to the other, which is also super useful for moving data around. So we'll start a new remote. We'll call it Box. You can see that there are many options here. Box turns out in this version of rclone, which is 1.50, it's number 6. So let's put 6 down. This stuff here, you don't need to set for, like, if you want to see all the configuration options for Box, there is actually on the rclone website, they have specific details for each one of them. If you need to go into the details for a remote, and most of this stuff that I'm skipping now is if you have some sort of like enterprise deployment or something like that. But we are using Box kind of like users, so it's not really an issue or something that we need to set up. Well, that's the part where I say I'm a user, I'm not an enterprise. And edit advanced configuration. No, don't need to edit the advanced configuration because I have no idea what's in the advanced configuration. So let's just skip it. And so this is the part that's important when you're setting up, is that some of these remotes, you need to have a browser to log in and authorize to access the remote. In this case, again, this is running on Farm, which is a remote computer where I don't have a browser. So in this case, they have one option that says, if you have a browser and you want to do auto config, so this works for your computer, you can say yes here, and it will figure everything out and open the browser, and you click and everything's fine. In this case, because it's the remote computer, we'll say no, and then it's going to give you instructions on what to do. So for this to work, we need the rclone available on a machine that has a web browser available. Execute the following on your machine, not on Farm, on my laptop. So I will open a new terminal here. And I do have rclone already installed here on my computer. I could use the wget and copy it to the right place, which is actually how I set up rclone here. And it would also just work. So for, what was the command? Rclone authorize Box. And so this opens the browser now. And it's going to ask if I want to give access to my account. In this case, I should have logged out of Box before running this, because it would be nicer to see what's happening. So let's redo this. Okay, so this is the page that you get when you're not logging into Box. For UC Davis accounts, we are going to use the single sign-on option, and then you put your UC Davis email and click on authorize. Then it's going to go through the UC Davis login, because I'm also logged in there. It will not show up, but you log in with your UC Davis credentials. And then it's going to ask if you want to give access to read and write all files and folders stored in Box. I want to grant access to that. So it's really crappy page, success. Oh, don't please go back to rclone. If you go back to rclone, now there is this thing here, which is an access token that you will need to copy and paste on the remote machine. So now I'm copying this from the local computer, from my laptop into Farm. So now I paste that, and then I say, yes, it's okay. And that's the remote setup. My initial plan was to do Google Drive. Google Drive got really annoying for setting up. So if anyone wants to set Google Drive, we can sit down and go into more details on how to do that. But it might take a week because Google has something else going on, but we can talk more about that later. So now we have the remote setup. It's all saved, so we can quit. And now if I do rclone and list remotes, it's going to show all the remotes that I have available. In this case, I only have one, which is Box, but you could set up other, you can even do like SSH connections. So you can set a remote, for example, for Farm or for Barbera, and it will take care of like logging in, going to the right place and start copying the data. Probably using SCP, I'm not sure, but it works. So now that we have everything set up, what we can start, these are the instructions for setting up everything. Of all of those many commands that showed up, these are kind of the ones that I use the most. So the first one is called rclone lsd, and then the remote. This is going to print out the directories available on the remote machine. If you do ls, it will also work, but it will show every single file. And if you have some directory there that's full of stuff, like my Zotero directory, it will take a long time to actually show up something here. So LSD is the one that it's easier to start digging now. If you want, you can do now ECS 220, which is a class that I took. So I have a lot of homeworks here. And it's showing the files and the sizes for each of the files. And rclone, for every rclone option, you can run -- help, and it will show you documentation and options that you can use to show. I think there is, yeah. So for example, there is human readable, machine readable. So you can even automate stuff where it's something that's easier for the machine to read, and you can pipe around and parse stuff. So that's also nice. So let's see, I have a file. Okay, I will copy rclone into the remote box, because why not? So for copying stuff, you run rclone copy, and you say what's your local file, .zip, and what's the remote place you want to put it. And I'm gonna make a new directory called med and put inside that. By default, rclone is very laconic, doesn't say much. There is a -p flag, capital P, that will actually print the progress of what you're uploading. And in this case, because I run rclone copy first and then run again with the -p, you can see that everything is 0 and there is one check. So rclone is smart enough to not copy again the data if the data is already there and the MD5 sums match, which is also super nice when you're trying to, when you had a big directory with a lot of stuff and you want to send just the changes and not everything again to backup. And sure enough, if we go into box now, there will be a new directory on my box called med, where I have rclone available. Yes?
So will rclone always orchestrate the directory hierarchy correctly?
Yeah, if I upload it to med/files/download/something, it will create all the directories on the way.
What about if I have my folder IBD that I want to upload? Inside IBD is my output folder. Output folder is all the different things. Like, and I want to upload the whole IBD directory hierarchy. So I just give it IBD, put it into IBD
On the remote.
UCA, there's certain boxes.
Yeah, it will copy all the files under it. Yeah. And so this is copying from the local to the remote. You can do the other way around. So I can say rclone copy box med. I don't think tab complete works, which is kind of sad. So I know that the name of the file is this. Well, I can look at the name of the file first. ls box med. So this is the file, and I can do rclone copy box med / this file into my current directory, and I'm gonna call it rclone.zip. I should have used the -p flag again here, rclone2.zip, so I can show that something is actually happening when I do -p. So you can see that it's saying it transferred that many megabytes at that speed, how long it's going to take, and everything. And if I look at the files now, I have, this is the one that I sent there. This is 3. Okay, that's annoying. It created a new directory here. Why?
So it overspecified the file name.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. I was kind of expecting to do this. Oh well. I think that's actually because rsync is kind of wonky on how it creates directories also, and they are following semantics. Okay, let's remove rclone2.zip because that's not a zip. Run this one. But of course, this rclone copy --help. I don't like this default behavior. Yeah, rclone always works as if you had written a trailing / copying the contents of this directory. Yes, that's not really nice. Yeah, sad. Okay, oh well, it works for copying from the remote. I just wanted to show that the syntax for copying is remote first and then local file. And if you had more than one remote, you can actually put 2 remotes and copy the data around. What else? Copy, sync. So sync is similar to copy. I usually do sync when I'm backing up a lot of stuff. Does sync behave properly? Kind of curious now. Nope, did the same thing. Yeah. So rclone sync and rclone copy are kind of similar. Maybe they are, but rclone sync Mm-hmm. I remember exactly what was the difference between copy and sync. I just know that I use sync.
I think copy is more literal and sync is like pays more attention to what you have left.
Maybe don't remember. But something that not rsync, rclone, sync, NCBI. NCBI is my my NCBI mirror. It's about 2 terabytes of data, I think, right now. And the nice thing about doing sync, I think copy probably works like that, is that if you started copying something there and you want to stop, so let's see, I have right now, I started copying, it's copying to GenBank. It has 21 files here. If I restart copying, it will pick up from where it was before. And now I'm getting more stuff. So like starting to copy fungi and so on. So it knows how to restart the copy and avoid copying what's already there. So this is usually what I do when I have sequencing data. I do rclone sync to remote computer. And yeah, so that, okay, now I get what Taylor was saying. If you do rclone copy, it will try to send from the local one to the remote, but it will not change the local one. And rclone sync will try to put both things on the same state. So if it tries to go to the remote place and there are some extra files there, it's going to copy on the way back. So it will actually sync the two places. Copy is just going to copy from one place to the other. Yes, because if you had so yeah, no, yeah, I think if you had something on in here that's deleted on the other place, you're syncing both things, and because it was deleted there, it would be deleted here also.
If you delete it on the box,
yeah,
and then go back
and sync again,
it's gonna delete it off
your computer.
So try not.
Or
yeah, well.
Or just don't
touch
only download the box. Don't mess with the file.
Yeah, usually when I use these remotes, I try not to go like into Google Drive and change things there because it might confuse rclone. It's okay to share links and copy stuff around, but don't try to change properties or change the file in one of those places.
Unless you're okay with it.
Yeah. But again, you had backups in another place, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. What else? So the other 2 commands for cleaning up stuff, there is rclone delete. So I can say rclone delete GenBank. And delete, what it's going to do is that it's going to go through all the files on this directory and delete all the files, but it will keep the directories. So this is sort of annoying if you're using a remote because, for example, I'll have GenBank here and then fungi and then a bunch of other directories and they will all be empty. So for that, the alternative is purge. So purge will actually delete the directories also. So you could think it's like an rm-rf that will clean up all the remote location. And now if I look into GenBank is gone. It's not here anymore.
But that only deleted the far one.
Yeah, delete and purge don't do anything to your local copy, just the remote. And that's kind of it. Questions? Confusing? Makes sense?
With the hour that's left, come and help if you want. If you're trouble setting it up, making sure that it's set up.
Yep. And Yeah, the data that I have, it's like a bunch of sequencing data and some Kraken databases on Google Drive. And I think that's about 3 terabytes of data. And it's been there for like 4 years. They never complained, so might as well. Um,